Hello and welcome to another episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World Crypto Network. Thanks again, guys, so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Fulfilling our favorite ritual here on Sunday afternoon, talking about Bitcoin. We have a lot of things to say, guys. We have a lot of things to talk about. We've got the government shutdown, of course, over here in the U.S., some Asian Bitcoin regulation, all sorts of news over there. We want to talk about the Schnorr Paper that just was released. And, of course, my personal favorite, lightning charge. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, lightning charge. The Bcash killer, most likely. We'll have to see. Lots of stuff to talk about. Really excited to get into it. First, have a few announcements. Just want to get through them real quick, guys. Let me just get to those real quick. So right now, from the last statistics that you can go and look over Satoshi's site, that's Mr. Jameson Lopp's static website for Bitcoin statistics. He's basically looking at, we're growing, Lightning Network right now is growing at about 40% per day. If you guys want to check that out, the amount of nodes and channels and everything like that is just growing, exploding. I'm seeing it all over Twitter. I'm seeing people post their videos about making live mainnet Lightning transactions on a couple different companies, from Blockstream's websites to TorGuard and let's see, I forget the other name, Bitrefill as well. So that's really great to see, really exciting to see. And then we've had our very first futures contract expiration over there at the Cboe just a few days ago. The January has expired and we're starting over again. So that's really cool. A really great milestone to see for Bitcoin. And then we have a 2.1 megabyte block that was actually mined by BitGo. Absolutely huge. Remember, guys, I have all of these links in the show notes, so definitely check that out. But we have the link here to the 2.1 megabyte block that was mined. And in fact, we had a bunch of big blocks that were mined really at all in the last couple of days. Maybe more people are activating SegWit, but we're seeing it. We're seeing it, and it is amazing. These huge blocks that are continuing to get mined. And finally, I just kind of wanted to share just a quick little anecdote here about the Mimblewimble network. I just thought it was amazing and kind of like embodies the whole cypherpunk movement. And for me, and I just want to describe the Mimblewimble system real quick, how it actually came to be. This was posted from Brooke herself, Mrs. Bitcoin Mom over there, and she basically posted this. It says the Mimblewimble system was originally proposed in the form of a text document, just a TXT file, published on a Tor hidden service, and then dead dropped on an IRC channel about a year and a half ago from an author that never, ever came back. So just kind of amazing stuff, guys. This is cypherpunk. This is how this is something you cannot compete with. This is Black Swan events. This is Bitcoin, and I'm really super proud of this community, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So let's go ahead and get to introducing our guests, our panelists. We have so much. We have a few panelists here. I'm just so excited to introduce you guys to all of these. We try to keep the panelists to about 4 or 5 or so. But look, today we got a bunch. We got so much to talk about. I'm really proud to introduce these people. So let's go ahead. First, we got Ansel Linder from BitcoinandMarkets.com joining us once again. Ansel, how you doing?
What's up, Vortex? Thanks for having me. Honored to be on.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Guys got to check out his podcast. Lots of good information, how Bitcoin ties into the traditional markets and everything. So really great stuff. Next, we, of course, got returning Mr. Francis Pouliot, the co-founder of Cadillac and the CEO of Bills.com. Francis, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on again, Vortex. It's going to be awesome today.
Yes. We look forward to all of Francis's information, and we hope that he talks a little bit slower than I do, but it's pretty hard, guys. It's pretty hard. You might have to set the speed to a little bit slower, but hey, it's amazing stuff. We got a lot to say. And we got Gabriel D. Vine from FutureRent joining us again, our resident conspiracy theorist. Gabriel, how you doing?
Thank you so much. I actually have my invisible tinfoil hat on today for you fans out there. So just enjoy. Can you see a little outline?
Awesome. Fantastic, Gabriel. Looking forward to your opinions and comments here. And then for the first time, ladies and gentlemen, we got Mr. Ragnar joining us right here from Bitcoin Real Estate. And he's from Bitcoin Real Estate and an entrepreneur. Talks a lot of amazing stuff on Twitter. I follow him. You guys should follow him too. I have, again, everybody's Twitter stuff in the show notes. Please check him out. Ragnar, how you doing today?
I'm well, Vortex. Thanks for having me here. This is exciting.
Heck yeah, awesome. I'm really glad to finally have you on. I've been following you for some time. We seem to agree on a lot of points, so I'm really glad to have you here. Excited to share your opinions with the audience today. And finally, last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest, Mr. Christian Decker, Bitcoin developer at Blockstream. Just so excited to have you here to talk about and demo the Lightning Charge software. Christian, how you doing?
Hi, great. I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yes, yes, awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We know you guys are busy, but hey, look, we got so much amazing information to share that this is just going to be super exciting. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We have our first topic we're going to be discussing, which of course is the government shutdown. We are on day 2 of the government shutdown over here in the U.S. And I want to talk about, since most of the panelists here have a lot to do with the U.S., I want to get their opinions. We'll go with Christian first on this. So Christian, let me ask you, how do you think Bitcoin will affect, how do you think the government shutdown will affect Bitcoin? Will it affect it positively or negatively, or does Bitcoin just not care?
Well, I think if Bitcoin cares, it will probably have a positive effect overall, because if anything erodes the trust in the state, then this is usually a good thing for Bitcoin, because if you can't trust your state, then who are you going to trust? You trust something that is stateless.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know, one country after another, if they try to ban Bitcoin, the price just seems to go up. So, so far, it seems Bitcoin has not cared so much. Let's go with Ansel next. Ansel, what are your thoughts on this subject so far?
I don't think it's going to have much effect, the U.S. government shutdown. It's a small part of Bitcoin. So I think that it could have an effect in that people will become more educated. All of these things that happen around the world, from capital controls to banking crises and etc., they just serve to educate people. And so, yeah, I was a victim of the government shutdown last time. And as soon as the troops stopped getting paid, then they magically found a solution. I think it's all theater, honestly. All this stuff is just theater, and they're all the same up there on Capitol Hill.
Lots and lots of security theater out there these days is from what I'm looking at. And, you know, we did see that 1K increase in the Bitcoin price that evening, only a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes or so after the government was announced to be officially shut down. So who knows what the heck is going on over there at Capitol Hill. Let's go with Ragnar next. Ragnar, what are your thoughts on this?
I think the government shutdown is hilarious. It's like Dumb and Dumber, but in real life and politics. And looking at the big picture, it talks about, you know, governance. This is a big debate. Is Bitcoin governance broken? The opposite. You know, when we have anarchy, we see actually it's quite resilient and it adapts, and it's messy, but it's resilient. And now we look at the government shutdown. I mean, the most powerful nation on earth right now grinding to a halt because of, like, what, 2 senators not voting one way or the other. So I think it underlines to me the fragility of large centralized institutions. They're powerful until they're not. It's like that saying in big wave surfing, like everything is fine until it's not. Like that's the nation state. So I think it's hilarious.
Absolutely. You know, it is kind of funny, but at the same time, you know, being a U.S. citizen, it's absolutely pretty embarrassing. I think the whole world can agree that this is kind of embarrassing for the United States. And you know, it just should go, like you said, Ragnar, goes to show these centralized authorities are really losing all sorts of things, from power to recognition, and now they're even losing face. So let's go ahead and ask Gabriel. Quite curious to see what he says on this particular subject. Gabriel, so what do you think? Is the government shutdown gonna affect Bitcoin in any way?
Well, you know, I have to say, you know, normally I might have said no, an answer quite like Ansel's. I actually spent a couple of hours on Twitter, surprise, surprise, today. And I was in the bath doing my bath tweeting. Little do you tweets of mine know, much of my tweeting is actually done from the bathtub. But, you know, it's quite interesting to see some cool conspiracy theories and rumors out there. And one of the very interesting rumors that I completely didn't follow up on, that I want to throw out there and let the wisdom of the crowd have at, is that the SEC, which is closed down for the government shutdown, has some sort of clause in the ETF application process, which says that if they're not functioning or whatever, then the ETFs can be traded. I'm assuming that if a Bitcoin ETF were to go through during this window of shutdown, I'm assuming they could come back and say, hey, you know, we finished our research and now we want to shut you down or something. So it's probably too risky for any exchange to actually carry an ETF, but that is a material way. If that's true, it's conceivable that it could have a slight impact on the Bitcoin ecosystem. But of course, governments are damaged to be routed around, or rooted, as they say in the United Kingdom, in general in human society, but especially when it comes to Bitcoin, which was designed to withstand organized attacks of any type, from any type of mafia, whether it's a mafia with great propaganda like the state or nation states in our world, or you know, smaller mafias like you know, that can hire developers like Bcash. So there isn't much effect on Bitcoin, but I will say this: I enjoy shutdowns not just because governments are doing less, which is a positive, net positive on the world society, but I also think they have an excellent impact on the psychology, which I believe you touched on, Vortex, an impact on the society, and Christian as well, an impact on the society, on people's mindset. So I think that's a great thing. People maybe will think twice and think, well, geez, the world is still functioning. In fact, the world kind of got a little better over the last few days. You know, maybe it make people think twice a little bit about the totalitarian states that we suffer under today.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hey, since the government is shut down, Francis, does that mean we don't got to pay taxes? Maybe you can give us your opinion from Canada over there.
Yeah, no, I wish. I'm pretty sure you still have to pay taxes. So I'll kind of, I'm kind of in the middle of between everyone's opinion on this. So I think this is definitely, you know, smoke and mirror. This isn't a real shutdown. And in any case, even if there was a shutdown, like, we would feel the effects in a really long time. So the period of time that we have doesn't really need have any major effect. So there's no like extra utility for Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't suddenly useful because you can do something now that you couldn't before the government shut down. However, yeah, I totally agree with also Christian on this in the sense that it increases perceived future utility, not only for US citizens, but perhaps other citizens that say, hey, yeah, maybe the government shutdown doesn't do anything, but if these things keep happening, if the instability keeps happening, and if the political is just a symptom of the political turmoil and the perceived uncertainty, so you may want to, some people may think that other people will in the future need Bitcoin because of things like this. So it's definitely a positive sign. Whenever someone asks, you know, why would someone buy Bitcoin? Well, you know, it's usually as a hedge against something, as a protection insurance against something. And that something is political instability, in the sense that since the banking sector, the financial sector, the monetary system is intrinsically linked to politics. If politics is unstable, then, you know, Bitcoin is more attractive. So it's a good sign. Yeah, I think it's a good thing for Bitcoin.
Very interesting. Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I really think that this is a good thing for Bitcoin. Again, like Gabriel says, this makes people think, this makes people maybe wake up a little bit more to figure out, hey, if my government is shut down, what happens to my money? maybe they can start asking a couple of those questions. So that'd be interesting. I definitely need to buy some more Bitcoin so we can hedge against that winter you have, Francis. I tell you what, it looks awfully freezing cold back there, and I hope our audiences are in a warm place. So let's go ahead and move to our next topic here. We got, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, speaking of uncertainty, Francis, there's really been like a lot of uncertainty over there in the Asian regulation markets. It seems like with Bitcoin, you know, between China and South Korea and Japan, and it seems that they kind of can't make up their mind, because we have like India eyeing all this crypto mining. We have the Russian Ministry of Finance, you know, to legalize crypto trading. South Korea is in the process of regulating, and then Japan sees it as legal tender. But yet we still have all this uncertainty. So, Francis, maybe you can kind of give us your thoughts on that, on the regulation over there in Asia.
Yeah, so I think the common theme regarding the Bitcoin regulation coming from Asia is that it's always unclear. It's always kind of in the gray zone. We don't ever really know what's going on. There seems to be people changing their mind all the time. So that seems to be a recurring theme, which is kind of tiring, because it does have effects on the market. It does have effect on the community. So, I mean, I really hope that we don't see the, you know, I'm not against some nations having a closer look at the kind of billions and billions of their people's trading and asking exchanges for accountability. I really, despite the fact that these places are the hotbeds for trading a lot of the scam coins, and we might be interested, you know, in some people might be interested in shutting down some of that scam coin trading. I really don't hope that happens. So yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I really can't say. I'm just kind of tired of all this FUD and conflicting news coming out of these countries. Particularly, I think you know, India. I don't think it's a huge problem. It's mostly China and Korea.
Yeah, and we've seen Joseph Young, you know, Joseph Young on the ground over there doing some amazing reporting on all of these countries, from Japan to South Korea to China. So this has been really great. I highly recommend everybody follow Joseph Young. He's been kind of keeping us up to date with the craziness that's happening over there, because the Western media is just dropping the ball as usual, really, really bad when it comes to, especially Reuters. I'm going to call out Reuters specifically in the FUD that they've been kind of producing, just completely misreading the situation, and almost it's pretty borderline manipulation at this point, the horrible reporting from Reuters. And so I just thank so much people like Joseph Young that are on Twitter and are on the ground giving us the truth. So let's go with Gabriel next. Or sorry, actually, let's go with Christian. I forgot to go with Christian first. So Christian, I know that you're not a big economics guy or anything, but like maybe you can give us your thoughts about what you think the regulation will how the regulation stuff will kind of play out over there in Asia. Do you think it's good right now for Bitcoin? Do you think it's going to get better? What are your thoughts?
So I mean, the major issue that we have with regulation in Asia specifically is that they keep on flip-flopping. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty, especially who is in charge of actually doing these things. We've seen that in South Korea, where one minister said, "Yeah, we're banning Bitcoin," and then other people came up and said basically that, wait, this guy doesn't have authority at all. After thousands of people signed a petition to basically kick that minister out. I think it's just people making a lot of waves, which ultimately also hurt the Bitcoin ecosystem or the cryptocurrency ecosystem as a whole, and not much real stuff is actually happening. So these events usually get reported and taken as absolute truths, but in the end, nobody the left hand doesn't know what the right hand does, and it just keeps the roller coaster going. So.
Yep, absolutely. And hey, meanwhile, while all this craziness is going on, you know, we got people like Christian over here, cypherpunks writing code, and so it's just great, a great reminder. You know, every time you see all this FUD in the media, just remember that there are amazing developers out there that are writing code, amazing people working for the community. So really exciting to see where we're going and where we're headed. Let's go with Gabriel next. Gabriel, what are your thoughts on all of this kind of mixed emotions and mixed perception here of the regulation that's going on over there in Asia?
Well, I think it's mostly a symptom of information arbitrage. We have a situation where the markets, crypto markets, Bitcoin, and the contact points between old finance, debt, and new crypto asset ecosystems. That border is extremely thin, and it's like a bubble, you know, like what you might think of as like the edge of a bubble, right? And it's this tiny, porous of contact. And what we have is a situation where the bubble, or the Bitcoin or crypto ecosystem, is small enough to where you can push and pull on the edge of this balloon, say, and a lot, right? You can cause temporary, you push your finger out and then the balloon stretches really far, but as soon as you stop pushing on it, it returns to an equilibrium. And so any type of arbitrage, financial arbitrage, right? We have one side that can print an unlimited amount of an asset. The other side has genuine scarce assets. So people that are holding are people that are friends with the money printers can throw huge amounts of money at bets and cause temporary market dislocations and what we call manipulation, which is, of course, totally, as far as I'm concerned, all's fair, in war. So we have, for example, the futures manipulations, right? There was this, like you said, the futures expired, and boom, there was, they shot up because they wanted to, they were pushing the prices down temporarily with shorts, pushing the balloon underwater. Boom, then they let it pop and squirt back up after they cashed in on their short future bets from last month. So these type of manipulations are relatively easy to do. Same thing with the information arbitrage. We have a situation where there's massive language barriers as well as cultural barriers, media barriers. And Asia is dominated by a centralized communist government that's even more authoritarian than the West in general. But yet, you also have Japan and Korea, who are somewhat more free market, but we have this delay, right, where somebody can make up the FUD, as Francis pointed out. They can make up these lies. They can manipulate a statement, make it the opposite, or take a statement out of context, and boom, they can depend on their connections in the centralized media to that message out to the markets and cause a temporary dislocation. Set up your short, throw out the FUD, close your short as soon as people are getting wise to your BS theory. It works over and over and over because there's new people coming into the ecosystem who are not familiar with these asymmetries in the culture and in the society. The good news is that the larger this balloon gets, is to pull all these things off. Every time you do it, it becomes less and less effective with the next time you try it. So it only takes $4 million to cause a major market move over a few minutes, or 10 million, 20, 50 million to cause some big moves that really dislocate things for a day or two. If the system's 10 times larger, you're going to need to come up with 200 million to do that. And as also, on the information asymmetry side, we have guys like Joseph Young coming up. You're going to have more and more and more of these people who are going to make their name by leveraging this information asymmetry, by becoming a figure that people can trust to quickly dispel myths, lies, and media manipulation. The media itself becoming more decentralized, right? So it's these the trust in centralized media outlets has been so abused by now that it's essentially mid-collapse. And nobody even bothers saying mainstream media anymore, because they either say lamestream or legacy media, because it's so far gone, and other media sources are so much more trusted that they're already from the start. So the good news is that these type of dislocations will only be possible for just a few short years.
I couldn't agree more. They only have so much time before they can continue to manipulate. I mean, we have seen some whales, pushing the price up and down and things like that for profits. But of course, that's going to be expected, and they're going to continue to do that. But they're not going to be able to do that forever, right? As more and more liquidity does come into the market, it's going to get harder and harder to manipulate, because there's no central point of manipulation, unlike traditional stock markets and things like that. We have markets, Bitcoin markets exist all across the world, across the planet, you just can't manipulate the entire planet like that. So it's very interesting to see. Although it's kind of funny, we've seen, speaking of manipulation, we've seen the Swiss National Bank just continue to print money and buy up more stocks. I think they own more stocks than pretty much any country out there, like 80 billion or something. It's getting kind of ridiculous at this point. So let's go to the next panelist here, Ragnar, I believe. Let's go with you. What are your thoughts on this maybe the discussion so far about this manipulation, and then what do you think about the regulation progressing over there in Asia?
Yeah, so the regulation, it seems to always be around the exchanges, which is really, where the state has their power on Bitcoin. That's the centralization weak point. And so when you model out the threat of, okay, how's the state going to try to shut down Bitcoin, if ever, it's always at the exchange level. So to me, it tells us we need to really focus on trying to get decentralized exchanges, trying to grow the internal Bitcoin economy so that we don't have to go in and out of fiat. Because that fiat gateway, I mean, they do control that, and that's a real threat. And that's why you always see the regulation around that area. So to the extent that we can try to get away from that, I think Bitcoin will be safer and stronger. So again, decentralized exchanges. And then, we're going to talk about Lightning Network, but anything that allows us to move across various classes of crypto assets, Bitcoin being the king, is just going to be better. So the more that we could have a complete economy based on Bitcoin, can move it back and forth, is better. And so, in terms of the regulation, so what do we do against that? Let's say they really start cracking down on all the exchanges. That's why I'm always encouraging people to try to earn Bitcoin instead of just buy Bitcoin, right? Because if you can only buy Bitcoin, they kind of got you. But as long as we grow the internal economy, I think that's a good solution to that. In terms of manipulation, yeah, that's always going to happen. But I think maybe Christian brought it up in the chat or in a comment, that it's just getting fatigued. I mean, people are getting fatigued. If you're a veteran now in Bitcoin, when you see these things, it's just like it passes right over you. This country's doing this, that there's shutdown there. I mean, after China, I mean, how could we be that worried? China was so big, and now they basically don't even have Bitcoin. I mean, it's amazing that Bitcoin just doesn't wait for any nation. It doesn't wait for any person. It doesn't wait for any country. It just keeps on sailing.
Absolutely. I mean, at this point, it seems that Bitcoin is too big to fail, right? Like, there's no single country, not even China, that can really affect it in a negative way for long term. There's just nothing.
And you look at you look at the regulation, it's sort of a form of competition. So as you see, these countries over time are going to actually sort of compete. China shuts down Bitcoin. Other countries are going to be much more friendly. And so that's what I see. It's only the regulation is going to get worse in some countries. And then other countries are going to compete for Bitcoin. That's going to happen more as Bitcoin becomes more used over time. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and we've seen that regulation come down hardest, right, where we have the most horrible capital controls, right? Wherever the worst capital controls are, wherever the government, wherever the country is being basically destroyed by inflation, that's kind of where we've seen the biggest amount of regulation. For example, like in Venezuela and Argentina, and even countries in South Africa and across Africa. So it's going to be, it's just really important. I think really important points that Ragnar made here about the closed loop economies. This is the end goal of Bitcoin, right? Of crypto, to create a closed loop economy where we no longer need fiat gateways, because everything we do will be in crypto in some way or some form. And decentralized exchanges, I think many of us at the World Crypto Network and many of the panelists here have been saying decentralized exchanges are going to be huge this year. I've been saying it. I've been tweeting about it. Decentralized exchanges are going to absolutely explode and blow up this year, because traditionally, starting last year, there wasn't a whole lot of liquidity in them, but now they are just blowing up, and I'm really excited to see that. I think by the end of the year, we will have some decentralized exchange with billions of liquidity being traded in a 24-hour basis. Let's go finally with Ansel to close out this topic. Ansel, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, to comment on the flip-flopping point, I think one reason why we see the flip-flopping is because they underestimate Bitcoin. So, we're going to shut down the exchanges, and then Bitcoin flourishes as OTC market there in China with Huobi and OKCoin, and now OTCBTC.com is doing huge volume over there. So now they're gonna try to pinch that area too. So they don't want Bitcoin there. They understand that it's being talked about at the highest levels. I guarantee you that Bitcoin has arrived in the geopolitical currency market. People are talking about it everywhere. Let's see. I had some notes here. This is I think we'll see more and more of this in 2018 here, this year. More on-ramps being closed down, more regulations. I mean, if you don't know anything about Bitcoin and you're a central banker, you're going to say, yeah, just ban it. Just ban it. So we're going to see all these bans happen. That's the first step. This is a great opportunity for countries like Japan, maybe Vietnam or Ghana, right, with Chifi over there, and a lot of these other countries to really step up to the plate and get as much Bitcoin inside of their borders as possible. So what? China shoots themselves in the foot. There's going to be other countries that are going to step up and court these. Canada, look at what Canada's doing up there, Francis. You know all that stuff. There's countries that are going to pick up the slack and just keep this ball rolling. Like everyone's saying, Bitcoin is bigger than any country. And it's also, we've had 6 months now time where there haven't been any huge banking crises like Greece or Cyprus, or we saw like kind of Catalonia has died down now a little bit. Italy has died down a little bit. But when these start coming back in the news, then we'll see that Bitcoin is definitely front and center on these people's minds. That's all I got.
Absolutely. I mean, front and center. I mean, Bitcoin has arrived in the geopolitical discussion, people. This is a fact now. This is what people are talking about. Francis, did you have something?
Yeah, just really quickly. As I was listening to the conversation, I was thinking, yes, a lot of the government crackdown news is flip-flopping FUD of insider trading and that kind of stuff and fake news. And a lot of the political, I guess, political blocking of Bitcoin has been very mild. You know, there hasn't really been big crackdowns. And I think governments will figure out what we figured out is that they don't want to have arbitrage, regulatory arbitrage, where one of them is going to ban Bitcoin and it's, you know, Bitcoin economy would move to another country. I think we should all keep a very close eye on France and on Germany. I think both France and Germany will try to lead a joint effort next year to have like some kind of EU, even G20, even UN regulation of Bitcoin, and where countries that don't participate in that Bitcoin regulation would have some kind of sanctions. I think this is what we should be scared of. Obviously, some countries like, you know, Canada is or Australia and some Asian countries, they don't necessarily care that much about what the EU does because they don't depend on trade that much. But, you know, that's definitely something to do, to watch out for. And as I've said, what I would be most excited about would be the EU going for a Bitcoin regulatory scheme, which for sure they're about to do, which for sure they're preparing. And I would like to see a smaller country leave the EU as a result of this scheme. This is the ideal scenario for me. And I'm still betting it's going to be Slovenia.
So that's quite an interesting point you make there with Germany and France. It's been all over the news the last few days here in Switzerland that Germany and France are trying to regulate Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, whereas Switzerland is just inviting them in. As a matter of fact, we just 2 or 3 days ago we had a big conference here in Switzerland that was also all around cryptocurrencies and fintech here in Switzerland. So and it was well visited also from representatives of the parliament, which shows that there is interest in these technologies. And I believe that showing this interest is actually a great differentiator, which allows to attract a lot of tech talent and a lot of future infrastructure into a country. So there are also countries waking up to this trend that you can actually gain traction, gain talent, and gain interest in companies by setting up a sort of sandbox, as opposed to trying to squash every little flower that is about to bloom, right?
Absolutely. I mean, couldn't agree with you more. I mean, one country's ban is going to be another country's opportunity. And this is just the game theory that's going to play out, and it's going to be amazing to watch the people who actually banned it in the beginning come back around and capitulate to the rest of the world once the rest of the world is finally on Bitcoin. So, and very awesome, guys. Very awesome topic. I'd like to thank our 1,000 viewers so far, live viewers. I'd like to thank everybody in the chat. I'd like to thank our panelists so much for joining us. We're having a great time here. We got another couple topics to go, so let's get right into those. Actually, before we do, let's just ask everybody to please give us a thumbs up if you can. Give us a thumbs down if you don't like what we're saying. And if you guys are new here, please subscribe to the World Crypto Network. We'd love to have you. We just crossed over, I think, 50,000 subscribers. So we've been doing a lot more content on the World Crypto Network. We've been having the Bitcoin Talk Show with Thomas, Mad Bitcoins over there answering your guys' questions. And of course, we've been doing those live streams of our previous videos, because we do have years and years of videos, guys, with lots of great content that you can go through and check out on those live streams. We just go through them all. So a lot of good stuff, a lot of good content in there. Let's go ahead and move on to our next topic here, Schnorr signatures, guys. So if you guys have been following my Twitter, you probably know I'm pretty excited about Schnorr. I mean, it can offer a lot of opportunities, a lot of features, a lot of things for Bitcoin. Really, really good things, specifically in the optimization. And so what happened was there was just a paper that was released by some Bitcoin developers, of course, penned by some of the big ones out there like Peter Wool and Gregory Maxwell. And so I want to get the panelists' thoughts on this. We'll ask you, Christian, first, on your thoughts on this particular paper. Are you excited for this paper to come out? And what are you most excited for that for Bitcoin that Schnorr is going to actually do?
Yeah, so Peter has been talking about this like forever, even before I joined Blockstream. So he's definitely super happy that this is finally out in the open, and we can actually get to discuss trade-offs of different styles and different implementations and different details that we still need to figure out before we can actually propose it to be merged into the Bitcoin protocol. For me personally, it's an incredibly exciting technology, especially because it allows us to do quite a few nice tricks in Lightning. We have a payment decorrelation scheme using Schnorr signatures. We can improve the onion routing using Schnorr signatures, and we can make a lot of stuff much easier because we currently ship around. Well, a majority of the packets we ship around in Lightning are just signatures, which we can aggregate using Schnorr. And for Bitcoin in general, we can just aggregate most of the signatures in a transaction, or maybe go one step further and aggregate over the entire block, and then we are really close to what Mimblewimble does, which is sort of the ultimate goal, right? Having a block with one signature on it, and that's basically all you have in there. So
man, that would be epic, man. An entire block with one signature, like just one epic huge signature that just accounts for many thousands of others. That's really amazing stuff, you guys. You really have to pay attention to people like Christian. You guys, I hope that you are following, intelligent people like Christian, like Jameson Lopp. These people will give you will give you information that will help you understand this amazing technology, all of these amazing features that are coming to Bitcoin, and that kind of stuff really gets me excited. Again, you can do more complex smart contracts. This is great optimization for both the base chain and Lightning as well. So absolutely great. Let's go ahead and go with Ansel next on this. Ansel, what do you think about this Schnorr paper being released, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's a little bit too technical for me. I like the general concept of it. I understand that it's aggregating and it's going to save block space and stuff, but I had a question for Christian, if I can. How is this going to settle or affect, like, Lightning channels, the opening and closing of Lightning channels, and, those Lightning channel factories that I've heard about?
Oh yeah, that factories paper. For those who don't know about channel factories, we basically create one huge multi-sig transaction where everybody has to sign off on what happens with the funds. And the more people are in a channel factory, the more flexible we can then create channels on top of this one multi-sig account. And what this ends up doing is basically with Schnorr signature aggregations, we can actually reduce this 15 of 15 multi-sig contract. We can reduce that into a 1 of 1. So we basically save 14 of the signatures that we would otherwise have to keep send around, and we would have to store. So that's a huge space improvement. And beyond that, we can actually do more people. We can do 100 of 100 multi-sig account. Though there are some downsides of doing that, because you have some coordination overhead. The more people you have, the more you have to coordinate. But we can actually go beyond the current limit, which is like 15 of 15, and we can actually go to any number we want to have. So it's a huge space savings, basically.
Cool. And thank you. The only other thing I want to add is that, Bitcoin is the most advanced tech out there in the cryptocurrency space. Ethereum can't even get one multi-sig right, and we're going on like generation 2 and 3 multi-sigs now. So I just wanted to get that political plug in there.
Yeah, it's always fun to diss a competing project. No, no, we definitely have some interesting stuff. I mean, multi-sig is going to be absolutely where it's at. It's the I mean, it really is the essence of smart contracts. This is what powers smart contracts, is this multi-signature technology, and Bitcoin has it down pat. In my opinion, you know, the only smart contract right now is a multi-sig on Bitcoin. So the only valid multi-sig. So we're of course improving on that now, even with Schnorr and some other stuff. So very cool stuff. Let's go with Francis next. Francis, what is your thoughts on Schnorr being released and the discussion so far?
Yeah, so I'll start with 2 questions for Christian. And so my first question is, I kind of went through the paper diagonally, just not really going past the abstract, but it seemed like it was specifically for a multi-signature implementation regarding Schnorr. So my first question is, so that wasn't specifically about like replacing ECDSA with Schnorr. It was specifically for multi-signature. So first question is kind of, why was it specifically framed around the multi-signature, or can you use Schnorr without multi-signature? And perhaps a second related question would be, so the way that I see it, I run a payment processing service, so I receive a lot of inputs, and sometimes I spend transactions with like 250 inputs. And in that case, these are all, my inputs, right? So transaction fees, I've paid $1,000 fees, on a few occasions on transactions. Does that mean that if Schnorr comes out and let's say I have like 250 inputs in my transaction and paying for all of these signatures, does that mean I'm only going to have one signature, or does that not change anything?
Yeah, so I should probably add that I'm not one of the authors of the paper for a reason, because I don't know the internals too well. What I do know is that Schnorr is still an ECDSA scheme. And in fact, we apparently still use the SecP 256K1 curve for Schnorr itself. So we're not abandoning ECDSA for Schnorr. It's just a different construction of the signatures. And regarding your second question is that whether we would simply have one signature for any number of inputs. Currently, that's not in the specification or in the proposal just yet. The Bitcoin protocol is a rather slow-moving beast, and that's on purpose. We're not moving fast and breaking things, but the idea is actually to have to eventually go there and have all these features where we have a single signature on the first input, and then every other input just references that signature and says, hey, by the way, I'm also part of the signature that you've just verified. So as I said, it's sometimes frustrating how slowly Bitcoin moves, but better be to move slowly than to break things and have people lose money. So the first step is just multi-signatures for individual inputs. Then the next step is probably going to be single signatures for multiple inputs. And the stretch goal, of course, is to reduce every single signature in the entire universe into one signature. But that's still quite a far way away.
And could you maybe tell us like how far, like what's the kind of roadmap for Schnorr, and specifically regarding the activation? As I understand it, since SegWit removed the signatures from some parts of the witness part of the signature, does that make it easier to activate Schnorr? And is Schnorr going to be a soft fork or a hard fork?
So with the activation of SegWit, many things that were hard forks before now became soft forks, simply because we now have version numbers on the scripts, and if somebody gets a script, has to verify a script and doesn't know what to do with it because it's a newer version that then it supports, it just says, okay, this is a no op for me. I'm accepting it. If there is a majority of the mining power out there that actually accepts this into a block, then I'm fine with that. So we can actually introduce now new opcodes that are actually changing the execution of the script. Whereas before we had to always make sure that any newly introduced opcodes do not change the behavior on the stack of the execution. We now actually can do these sort of breaking changes in a backward compatible way, where we simply increase the version number once, and everybody else just says, okay, I don't understand what's going on, but if this actually makes it into a block, then I'm fine and I'll accept it.
Francis, any more questions?
Oh, no, that's good. Thanks.
Very, very cool. Awesome stuff, guys. We can definitely get a little bit technical on this show, but you're more than welcome to rewind it and check it out again. So let's ask Gabriel, what are your thoughts on the discussion so far? And do you have any questions for Christian?
Yeah, no, this is great to have Christian here as our technical resource to answer our layperson questions, and so that we can figure out what the heck this thing is. It's pretty complicated stuff, and you know, my technical understanding of you know, the Bitcoin internals is, you know, it's limited. I try to keep up with everything I can. So I am very interested in what you said when you introed the subject with your sort of overview. I'm really fascinated by the intersection between technologies in general, you know, but also within Bitcoin itself. So one of the things that you mentioned, the thing is that they don't just intersect. Of course, they're combinatoric. So there's unexpected innovation that can happen when these things are combined. And you mentioned that Schnorr signature technology can be combined and used on layer 2 Lightning Network. So would you mind giving us a bit more of a thorough overview of how multi-signature technology and sort of smart contract type transactions function on Lightning and how Schnorr affects it?
Yeah, so I mean, the most immediate impact, of course, is that we have, when we have Lightning channel, then we have two parties deciding what happens to funds that we sort of allocated to a channel. And this is basically done with a 2 of 2 multisig account. And we can now, if we have Schnorr signatures, we can reduce the requirement of having 2 signatures to spend those funds into having a single signature. Furthermore, we can also now better hide the fact that these are Lightning channels, for example. So Lightning channels can can look like any other transaction from one party to somebody else without giving away the fact that they are Lightning channels at all. Now, not all of this is actually implemented. Actually, none of it is, because the Schnorr signature scheme just came out. But we may actually pick up this and improve and further add this as we go along. The second, maybe less impactful way that Schnorr signatures can help us is that we actually ferry around a lot of signatures in the Lightning Network itself. We do have some gossiping, where we basically tell the rest of the world what channels exist, what nodes exist, and so on and so forth. And all of this needs to be authenticated. So we have lots of signatures attached to all of these data packets, and most of them actually have to be signed off by multiple parties, basically both endpoints, and then we have some public keys, and then we have node IDs, and then all hell breaks loose. And we have messages that have 4 signatures on them. And it's like 90% of the messages are basically just signatures. So boiling that down into one signature is a huge improvement on the bandwidth requirements that we have for Lightning. And then we have all sorts of schemes where we actually have some further separation between individual hops in the Lightning Network, where currently we use HTLCs, so we use a hash that remains the same for the entire route. Whereas with Schnorr signatures, we can build schemes that work similarly to HTLCs, but are no longer share a single secret on the entire route, and so we can actually hide our traces better, so to speak.
Very, very cool. Gabriel, did you have any follow-up or other questions to that?
I just wanted a quick comment that it's pretty much lines up with what I was reading, which is that Schnorr likely increase the bandwidth and scalability of Lightning as by making them more efficient, but also privacy.
Absolutely. Very, very awesome stuff. We need to put the whole universe in a signature, people. That is the goal. Let's go with Ragnar next. Ragnar, what are your thoughts on the discussion so far, and these amazing technologies that just keep coming to Bitcoin? You are muted, Ragnar. Sorry, I have to start over.
So what it shows to me is what it demonstrates about Bitcoin and its development process. And like Christian said, it's slow, but it's safer and better. When you look at this, you see just how sophisticated the developers are in Bitcoin, and you just see how far advanced they are, yet also very patient and slow. So, I'm an entrepreneur. So as I think about, which tool am I going to use to accomplish a certain goal in my real estate applications, I got to look at empirically, what is the safest blockchain to use. And when you're dealing with real estate, you're talking about, assets that are worth millions, even billions of dollars. And so you have to really think about security first. So to me, it gives me a lot of confidence as I watch this unfold. They're not reckless and let's just rush this in with a hard fork, or development isn't done through an ICO. Other blockchains, they'll say, oh, we have this scaling solution, and we do it with an ICO, which is crazy. Or other ones don't even scale in a safe way. They just do a dumb block size increase. So to me, the Schnorr signatures, Lightning, it really gives me confidence. And it also shows that people need to be patient, though. So if you want to really be in Bitcoin, you have to have the personality or just sort of, you got to be patient with things, but know that it pays off in quality over time. Christian talked about not moving fast and breaking things. And to me, that's why Bitcoin to me is king, because over time, that's what matters. And as you look at other, projects, blockchains, cryptocurrencies, they're more centralized. So in the sense they can move faster, but the quality, I don't see it really being there. And their improvements or their features are kind of, they're not fundamental, I would say. They're more of a feature in their upgrades than a fundamental cryptographic core upgrade. So coming from an entrepreneur, I love this stuff, and it gives me a lot of confidence.
That's such a great point. These fundamental cryptographic blocks that we build these applications with, that's what Bitcoin is made of. That's what you build applications with. That's what you script with in Bitcoin. And it seems like these other protocols, there's a lot of other protocols that are just trying to rewrite everything from FTP to whatever. But, Bitcoin continues to develop these fundamental cryptographic blocks, building blocks of technology that continue to just be robust as possible, secure, amazingly secure, and scalable. And this is just great to hear. So awesome discussion, guys, so far. Before we move on to the next topic, let's just thank our 1,085 live viewers here for joining us. Thanks for everybody in the chat, even the flat earthers, even. But just glad to have everybody in the chat. Doesn't matter who you are, having a great time. So let's go ahead and move on to the final topic here today, with the one that everybody's been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, the lightning topic, lightning charge, love and lightning. That's what we say over here in the World Crypto Network, guys. So before we get into the discussion, I'm gonna have a couple questions too for Christian at the end after everybody else goes. I do have a couple criticisms of lightning that I'd like to completely, get rid of and address, so that people can really see the truth here. So first, let's go with Christian. Christian, so how long have you been, or how long has Lightning Charge actually been in development? And maybe just give us a little bit of the history of it, and where you'd like to see it go in the next few months, or how fast you think it can evolve.
Yeah, so we at Blockstream we have our own Lightning daemon, and we've been working together with Assange from Paris and Lightning Labs for quite a while on this specification. So we met. So Rusty, my colleague, started working on C Lightning in 2015. A few months later, Assange started, and then Lightning Labs started. And at some point, we had this. So initially, we had this exploratory phase where everybody just went their own way and started experimenting with stuff. And then we met in Milan just over a year ago, and we started writing down the specification and sort of coming together with writing a unique, a common protocol that we sort of standardize on. So C Lightning has been in development for the last 2.5 years. Lightning Charge is the adapter that we decided at some point to build on top, and that's not been that long. I guess it's been 3-4 months now. So the idea is basically that yes, we are building these Lightning clients that are sort of the part of the infrastructure of this payment network. Tinkering for a while in our little dark corners and not talking to anybody and trying to get this stuff working. And Lightning Charge was sort of the point where we decided, okay, let's we at some point we need to onboard users and see what they need from us, right? And so Lightning Charge was a project that we decided to outsource to a contractor. Nadav, and he has a strong web development background, and we thought, okay, what would a web developer want from us? What tools is he used to? What kind of interaction does he require from us? And so we built this middleware which basically connects the needs of application developers and web developers with the underlying client that runs the infrastructure. We decided to sort of make this external tool that talks to C Lightning, because these requirements tend to be quite ephemeral and change over time, and depend also on the kind of deployment that you're doing. So we decided to have sort of this middleware that can be easily adapted and not merge this functionality into C Lightning. And so C Lightning is basically this middleware, which is now being used for a couple of demos, including our merchandise shop. Yeah, it's been a great success so far. And loads of people have shown interest in setting up their little shop or their tweet service that tweets whenever you pay them a millionth of a dollar or whatever. So it's been a great experience to have this enthusiasm of the community to get this out and start rolling this out and sort of gather some experience on how this works and how to use it.
Absolutely awesome. So you would describe this then as like Lightning Charge is kind of like a middleware JavaScript API library for web developers to be able to accept Lightning payments on their website.
Yeah, so it's not really an API. It's more of it's a real daemon that runs in its own process. And then Nadav went ahead and also built the actual JavaScript and PHP API clients, and then some demo applications, including WooCommerce plugin that you can basically just drag and drop into your WordPress installation and make it a shop that now accepts Lightning payment for whatever you're selling.
And it's so cool that you guys actually, excuse me, it's so cool that you guys completed the WordPress plugin, because I mean, WordPress at this day and age is kind of like massive. It really does power a huge swath of the internet, a huge percentage of the internet. And to have a WordPress plugin where you can just drag and drop Lightning payments on your website, I mean, that is absolutely amazing. So, well, I mean, pretty much. I mean, go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
You also need to set up a Bitcoin D full node and a Lightning D and Lightning Charge. So it's not exactly drag and drop, but
so it's a couple things. Yeah, you definitely got to set up your own C Lightning, your own node and things like that. But yeah, this is why it's and I believe that you guys kind of specifically want it to be like that right now, right? I mean, we want it to kind of be a little bit of a high barrier to entry right now because of the experimentation, because it's so new, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is very much experimental, and we have been getting a lot of feedback, and I'm actually quite happy that we sort of set the bar of entry quite high, because already with this rather high bar, we already get a lot of new users. The network basically went from 19 nodes before we launched the Blockstream store now to 90. So that's 5 times as many nodes and 5 times as many channels, and it's sometimes scary to see how much people are actually trusting that code already. Of course, as one of the implementers, you are always a bit protective about your baby, and you're afraid that people might get angry at it if something happens. But I think it was a good move to sort of get this user engagement going, and sort of have this slow and controlled rollout that we wanted to have with this.
Absolutely, and you know, there are a few people that you know even Elizabeth Stark and such that kind of given Blockstream a little bit of criticism for perhaps releasing this maybe a little bit too early and things like that. But I just have to. I'm curious to see what the panelists think too. We'll go with Ragnar next on this, but I just I think that it wasn't really reckless at all. I mean, again, the barrier to entry is high to set this up. This isn't, you know, your mom and pop going to be setting this up on their mom and pop shop selling whatever, right? This is going to take some real engineering to kind of get this going, but yet there are enthusiasts that are doing this. Like Christian said, we almost 100 nodes now on LiveNet. I mean, that's amazing growth, and it's going to continue. Like I said earlier in the program, it's kind of been growing like at 40% per day, and I think it's not going to slow down anytime soon as more and more people get into this. So really great. Ragnar, let's get your thoughts on this so far. What do you think? Was it a little bit too reckless to launch this too soon, or what are your thoughts on and have you seen people across Twitter using this yet?
No, I don't think it was too reckless. I think you have to have, you know, it's risk profile. So what's a greater risk? Maybe a few people losing a few dollars versus people not understanding that this is real and this is here. And I think by allowing people to use it on mainnet, you can get faster feedback, you can get faster errors, you can see what's working and what's not, and you can kind of build up the momentum, because ultimately you kind of need a bit of a network effect for it to, I think, be most effective. So I think it's great. And I think the people who are actually doing this know what they're doing. They know there's some risk, and I think that's okay. And I think it's really lit a fire under a lot of people, which to me, from a human element, is you know what the technology needs to take off. So I think it's exciting and great, very great.
Absolutely. I have to share your enthusiasm there, Ragnar. I just see all these people creating all of these transactions on Lightning mainnet on Twitter, and posting videos about it, and it's just absolutely exciting to see. Let's go with Ansel next on this. Ansel, what do you think about Lightning Charge being released? What do you think about the community response so far?
Well, I share everybody's opinion here on the panel. It's just super exciting. I think it's going to take us a while to figure out exactly what this means for the future, but with Lightning getting going and getting a foothold, I think that's super exciting. I want to make another political note here on the show, and that is that this kind of back and forth we've seen between Lightning Labs and Blockstream shows that Bitcoin is not centralized, that this layer 2 stuff is not centralized, development is not centralized. And so all the naysayers out there that have talked about Blockstream Core and all this stuff. It's totally unfounded, and this proves it. I mean, there's disagreements amongst the major developers here for Lightning, and that's okay. We're going to be stronger because of it.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christian.
If I just may add, we've been in contact with Elizabeth and the other Lightning Labs guys, and I just want to make sure we absolutely share their concerns with regards to a mainnet rollout. It's definitely not something that we've done lightheartedly. But it's something that we felt was needed in order to get to be part of the rollout, because as you mentioned, it's permissionless the deployment of Lightning, and in fact Yalls.org and Bitrefill and Torguard have already started accepting mainnet payments with Lightning before we did. And we felt it was necessary to be sort of part in during this initial rollout and actually experimenting on mainnet to gather the first-hand experience. I'm definitely not. I don't want to dismiss the concerns by Elizabeth, and I want to absolutely make it clear this is absolutely experimental software and should only be used by people that are happy to sort of help us debug and report issues, and it might be painful initially, and hopefully we can use this feedback to improve and make it the user-friendly experience that everybody can then use in the end. So to those few people that, or not few anymore, it's 90 people out there that have set up nodes. To those brave pioneers, thank you so much for the support, and it's been a great ride so far, and keep that feedback coming.
Absolutely, guys, and I guess I want to second that too. I don't want to downplay or dismiss, Elizabeth Stark's concerns. They are valid, of course, but I mean, this is the Wild West. This is where we test things, man. The internet is cypherpunks and Wild West people. This is how it was built. It was built without permission, and Lightning is built without permission. Just a great point from Ansel about the decentralization here that we're dealing with Lightning. There's just multiple teams across the planet all working on this together. Then you got people working on Lightning Charge, and it's completely decentralized. There is no central point of failure here. We just have a bunch of people that are super excited to get this technology out to people, because we want the promise, right? We want we want what everybody wants, right? We want Bitcoin to be instant, completely confidential across the planet. We want all of this, and we are working towards that end, and the community has just been putting out amazing stuff, amazing technologies with Lightning Charge, now the Schnorr Paper. It's only accelerating. From what I'm looking at, it's only accelerating. So great talk so far. Let's go with Gabriel next on this, I believe. Yeah, Gabriel, what are your thoughts so far on Lightning Charge and the discussion?
I think it's amazing, and I'm really relieved to see Christian working on that particular middleware piece of the puzzle, because it makes it so much more practical for businesses to immediately begin to leverage this fantastic new technology, the first functioning layer 2 payments protocol that will make e-commerce practical using Bitcoin, which up till now it's just been kind of like a curiosity, but Lightning is the first infrastructure that makes it actually a practical internet currency, and in fact really fulfills the promise that so many people saw in Bitcoin from the very start, but we didn't really have the technical maturity in order to realize it. And so that's just amazing to see, especially since I've been following the Lightning story since the very day that the video of Taj Dryja and Joseph Poon dropped on YouTube. I'm very relieved that I happen to be, the algorithm, I guess, told me about the video, or else I might not have caught it.
Oh no, we might have lost Gabriel. Well, we'll hear from Gabriel when he gets back. He's probably just a temporary internet connection over there. So until then, we'll go with Gabriel when he gets back. But until then, let's go with Francis and your thoughts on Lightning Charge and the discussion so far. Sorry, Gabriel. Are you back, Gabriel? We'll see if Gabriel's back.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, let's go back. Yeah. Sorry, Francis. We'll continue with Gabriel. You dropped out there for a little bit, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that. So anyways, the video dropped, and I believe it was February of 2015, so it's been close to 3 years. Can you hear me still? Yeah. And the very day that video dropped on YouTube, I watched it, and I watched it like 4 times, and I was like following it, and I kind of like made some notes. I was like, oh, I see how this works. It's like a daisy chain of signatures, and that way, you know, and all they need is SegWit, which is like already like very, you know, pretty far along at that point. Socially it wasn't, you know, or whatever politically, but technologically it was looking really good. And I was like, oh, you guys just need to pass these, like, you know, the relative time lock. Like, everyone wants relative time lock. That's easy. And I was just like, this is so incredible. It totally blew my mind. And so I've been following it since that exact day and just telling everybody about it, because I really couldn't see a way that development, the actual fleshing out, could be any more difficult than working out the concept to begin with, because the pieces to put it together are so much simpler than like actually, it's kind of like Bitcoin, where the pieces to put together Bitcoin that Satoshi Nakamoto put together had already existed for 7 years by the time that the white paper had come out. So it's just a matter of putting them together with the right algorithm and the right mathematics to get the social consensus right. But the actual you know, pieces of the puzzle were a lot easier. So actually conceiving of this thing probably took Satoshi years, but then writing the software is all existing pieces and plopping them together. And that was the same thing with Lightning. And I've just been following this progress so carefully, and it's just see that there's now a Bitcoin and a half of liquidity on the mainnet. As risky as that is, it's only 20 grand. There's 90 people, you know, they're kicking down at whatever, maybe a few $100 each and experimenting, because they probably, a lot of the participants on the mainnet Lightning network probably have so much, so much profit to gain by having a functioning Lightning network and ironing out any wrinkles now and putting a few $100 worth of Bitcoin or a couple of grand worth of Bitcoin on the line and being absolutely willing to lose it, because once this thing is a little bit more mature, they stand to probably gain millions by, you know, just like the world stands to gain trillions in market and wealth generation, wealth creation in society by having a, as Alan Greenspan put it in 1998, a reliable e-cash. That's what Lightning does. It makes Bitcoin into the reliable e-cash that the internet has needed from the start. So I'm super excited about it from just a historic standpoint, and also personally because my business will directly benefit from the existence of functioning and secure Lightning. Very, very excited to be running a Lightning node and running Lightning Charge some point this year. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Christian, for your hard work. This is a momentous time that we will look back on this and be able to say, I remember when I got the first Lightning payment over my web browser. People will, this is amazing stuff.
Flavio corrected me. It was actually Milton Friedman, not Alan Greenspan. Is that who that was? Do you guys know? I don't know.
We'll look it up, Gabriel. We'll look it up. We'll have somebody in the chat look it up. But let's get Francis. I'm curious to see what Francis thinks about all of this, because you know, obviously Francis is an entrepreneur in the space, just like Ragnar and even Ansel. I guess we're all almost entrepreneurs in the space here. I'm curious to see what you think about Lightning Charge, and maybe what are your plans to begin implementing it in your company.
Yeah, so first of all, like, not to beat a dead horse here, but like addressing the risk part of the mainnet, like, I'm actually not a developer. I know to some people like sound technical. That's just because I really just like Bitcoin and I want to know all about it. So I don't code. I've never manipulated software, and I wanted to download the Lightning wallet in order to join everyone in making these videos on paying stuff with testnet. So I actually kind of downloaded Node on my computer and Yarn and, you know, all that kind of stuff that I had not really done before. I've done it once. And then I managed to get the Lightning network going, like not even Zap because there was a problem with the folders. And then, you can't change from testnet to, there's no like button, right, to go from testnet to mainnet. And I made like 4 or 5 payments and it wasn't working. And then suddenly I managed to pay a y'alls.org article and I was like, holy shit, I just used Lightning Network. So, I mean, obviously, like just using the wallet. And by the way, like what Lightning Charge is doing is not allowing people to send, Lightning payments easier. It's allowing people to receive Lightning payments easier. So like noobs can't start to lose money, right? You need to be realistically like a tech person or developer in order to switch your wallet from testnet to mainnet anyway. So regarding Lightning, I mean, Lightning is by far the most interesting project in the world to me right now. I mean, other than Bitcoin itself, but since Lightning is Bitcoin, it is kind of one of the most it is still Bitcoin, but it's the most innovative and disruptive, and it's the most exciting for many different reasons, many reasons. One of the reasons I like the most is that, being kind of a blockchain consultant and a blockchain person, I'm not just a Bitcoiner. I hang out I analyze other blockchains and fintech. And the notion of smart contract, I kind of agree with you, Vortex, in the sense that to me, a smart contract is a programmable cryptocurrency transaction whose redemption conditions are enforced by decentralized consensus escrow. And I really like smart contracts, but the way most people conceive of smart contracts, there's always an input or output that's going outside of the blockchain, and somehow that's translated through some kind of distributed system or Oracle or private server or something like this. When you look at the Lightning Network, it is the only kind of large-scale, really important application, right? An application composed of smart contracts as being the individual components. There's nothing really that compares. It uses 3 main kind of smart contracts like hash time lock transaction, multi-signature transactions, relative time lock transactions, which are all smart contracts, but it uses those 3 smart contracts with another whole set of specs and logic, and it's like mind-blowing. When I was in, so for this reason, like and by the way, like this is my next article that's coming up, is 2018 is the year of smart contracts on Bitcoin. You have stuff like Ivy that we covered last week. You got stuff like Lightning, like sidechains, like all this kind of crazy, massive, amazing stuff that's coming here. So as like a consultant in the blockchain space, when I see that, I have these examples of smart contracts being executed on Bitcoin, it actually becomes much easier to sell the Bitcoin blockchain as the underlying, smart contract blockchain that your company or your government agency might want to do some proof of concepts on. So just generally, like just proving that Bitcoin is extensible as a smart contract layer. When I was really, I was going to say when I was really young, like when I got into Bitcoin, immediately the people that were my oracles and mentors, they were telling me like one day, Bitcoin's going to be like gold and you're going to have all sorts of altcoins. This was back in 2013, right? You're going to have Bitcoin as like the one reference, and then you have like all sorts of altcoins that are going to do other stuff. And then, it was sidechains, and then it was other things with private chains. And I was coming back to Bitcoin. It's like Bitcoin is actually, I was like, I never actually thought Bitcoin would be this payment. And like how Finney used to say, I thought that one day you have like banks that would have like Bitcoin reserves and that would allow transactions. I was imagining stuff like open transactions, from Chris Odom, like people settling in Bitcoin over other things. And then the fact that you can do that on Bitcoin, ultimately after all those years, it's like, holy shit, like Bitcoin is better than I thought. Like Bitcoin would have been good as is, and now it's like even better. So that's just generally Lightning is amazing. Also just following, the specs, and I followed kind of the insider kind of things from the outside. Christian doesn't know me, but I always like to follow like kind of the dev politics going on there. And I mean, it's been fantastic. Giacomo did a super good job in getting people together that evolved into this really great community mindset of collaborating on the protocol, which is called Bolt now. So just fantastic community. And, the Lightning developers have a lot on their shoulders because they are seen as, the kind of saving grace of Bitcoin. It's kind of like, it's not the only hope, but it's it's kind of the main hope right now for Bitcoin as a global peer-to-peer cash system. But the community has really come to the rescue. I think a lot of people, they're like starting to understand that, okay, the devs can't do everything themselves, so we have to build a part. Regarding Charge itself, Charge is fantastic. Charge is exactly what I'm looking for when I'm looking at tools that are needed, like building a lot of web apps. I've always been super disappointed and super I lost, time and money on a lot of frameworks. There was never been this kind of middleware. I really used to like Bitcore by BitPay. You can launch your node and different things on top of it, and you can control everything through this one API and this kind of one thing. So actually, when I hired an engineer to work on bills as Lightning integration, which is now like my biggest expense, essentially, since I don't see it as optimization, but as survival for my company. But when I hired this engineer, he's like, listen, we don't really know which implementation we want. I mean, it's kind of not that easy to interact. So we're gonna have to build some middleware. Like my engineer was like, we're gonna have to build middleware, not unlike Lightning Charge. So Lightning Charge is kind of like what Nicolas Dorier is building with BTC Pay Server. They're doing the work for the web developers, right? So this is like a tool where the web developer, you just have a bunch of like calls and all the complicated stuff. It's like an abstraction layer. It obviously makes it super easy. The WordPress plugin, that's just like icing on the cake, like that's just like perfect. It's like because even if you're a web developer, it's not. But WordPress, I mean, I know you still have to run an instance probably with WordPress, but still, that's great. So I mean, this is absolutely the kind of stuff that I'm super excited about. I was tweeting the other day that I see is kind of like a race to be the first. Everybody sees the opportunity. Everybody sees like a new, now is the time for people to be the first big names in Lightning, so there's definitely some competition there. I'm definitely going to be building an open source middleware stack that's going to be branded, that's going to be separate from bills. That's something I'm working on. So, probably be competing with Charge in that way a little bit, but I mean, it's super exciting. So overall, yeah, mainnet is great. Obviously, user behavior on the mainnet is not the same. There's all these quirkiness of testnet that don't necessarily apply on mainnet. And Lightning is not just a technology; it's a network, right? So you need to kind of start to understand like where's the liquidity actually going to be flowing to and from, because when you're conceiving those middleware and those software, maybe I'll want to have like as a business maybe like 10 Lightning nodes. Maybe I want to manage a cluster of nodes to move liquidity around, and how is that going to evolve? Because the network will have a certain shape depending on how people are actually using it and where the money is flowing, and depending on the network's emergent shape, you may want more or less features of this kind of stuff like that. So we need to do it on mainnet. So yeah, I've been ranting for a long time, sorry, but I'm super excited. Lightning's amazing. This is going to be a hell of a year, and I just can't wait to see what kind of stuff people think of.
Absolutely. Just great information, Francis. We don't mind you ranting at all in the slightest. Lots of great information on there. I hope people can rewind that and check that out. There's just so much good information. So thank you so much, Francis, for that. Before we actually go to the Lightning Charge demo, I do kind of just want to get across ask Christian about a couple the criticisms that the Bcash folks love to throw out there. So first, let me ask you, Christian, what are your thoughts on the centralization of Lightning hubs? Because just really quickly, if you look at diagrams, you can see that there's no hub and spoke. It's just tons of hubs with tons and tons of channels. So what are your thoughts first on the centralization of Lightning hubs, and perhaps big players, for example, in the future, like banks and such, being Lightning hubs, and what are your thoughts on that as a problem or not, if that's a problem?
Yeah, so one of the criticisms that we hear a lot is that basically we control the creation of the network and that we are going to be the hub. It's kind of funny to see that people describe a system where any two people can meet on the network, set up a channel without any permission from anybody else. It's kind of funny to hear that this is being thrown at us as a centralization concern. as when we talk about the network topology that we'll end up with, and those are valid concerns, that there might be a few big hubs that sort of will control the majority of the payments. It's kind of hard to dismiss those because we don't actually know how the network will form. And people have been asking for simulations on what happens and what will happen, and there's just so many known unknowns and so many unknown unknowns that any kind of simulation doesn't make any sense. We actually have to walk through it, and that's one of the reasons why we're really interested in being part of this network formation game right from the start, sort of to guide the formation into a shape that is as decentralized as possible. We now have quite a few channels open to our store, and we will periodically just close them and sort of tell people to connect to somebody else, sort of being this initial focus point, and sort of then load shedding onto other parts of the network. That being said, large hubs are fundamentally uneconomical. If you think about it, a large hub has to set aside a lot of funds for any eventuality that they might have to send large amounts to anybody else, and these funds are badly used. Because hubs will mostly talk to end users, and the funds that you set aside for channels that are going to end users will only be used when this end user is actually doing trading. So they will be sitting idle for a long time. Whereas if you create a channel that sort of connects two big partitions of the network, a lot of trade transfers will go over it, and so the utility you get from setting aside those funds is much higher, and you can charge far lower fees. So there is an incentive of creating alternative routes around any existing point of centralization in the incentive structure of Lightning itself. And furthermore, we also have the privacy concerns that will push people to avoid large hubs. And we also have the single point of failures that will be a concern. So if we have large hubs in the middle of the network, then those hubs going down will basically take the network with them. So just because of this resilience rationale, we will see a lot of a network that is mostly decentralized, in my opinion.
Yeah, so it sounds like the way the Lightning Network is structured, that it's economically and technically incentivized to not have big hubs, because like you said, they can become central points of failure if they get too big. But let me ask you, if there was large hubs, and that's how it evolved, because again, we don't know, there's too many known unknowns. But even if they did evolve, even if the network did evolve large hubs, the hubs have no ability to censor, to stop transactions, right? Or is that correct?
Yes. So we've decided to integrate onion routing right from the start as a privacy preserving measure in the network, and that means that we basically have any hop in the network will basically just see a payment coming in from left, and it will decrypt this packet, and the packet will contain instructions where to forward the next. So it will see something coming in left, something going out right, and then eventually this payment will be settled. There is no way, just like in Tor, there is no way for people in the middle to see, okay, who was the original sender, who was the final recipient, and not even what his position is in the route. So you're basically just forwarding a payment from somewhere to somewhere, and you might you can leverage a small fee on it for your work. Basically, it's as simple as that, and there is no identifying information attached to a payment whatsoever that would allow censoring in the first place.
Awesome. Very awesome information. Okay. Very cool. Another question then for you regarding these Lightning hubs. What is your response to a lot of the people saying that they can just regulate them as money transmitters? Does that make any sense to you? Because they are routing payments and things like that. Obviously, to me, it makes no sense that they could ever do such a thing. It'd be like the equivalent of regulating regular Bitcoin nodes. But I want to know your thoughts, Christian. What do you think about the criticism that these Lightning nodes would just all have to become money transmitter, have money transmitter licenses?
That's kind of hard question, because I'm not a lawyer, and this might of course be very much different from one nation to another. It's kind of hard for me to imagine that such a regulation would ever exist. After all, I'm not a money transmitter because I get my coins from one side and then send them to somebody else. I'm basically just trading with my peers, right? It's not like I'm providing a service to somebody that I don't know. I just shift my balance from one side to another. That's all I'm doing. So that's the legislative question. The more interesting question is whether they could actually enforce it if this were to happen. So if there was a crackdown against Lightning nodes under some sort of regulation, then we do have anonymizing technology. Most Lightning implementations will work without any changes on Tor, for example. So they would basically have to go after their entire population of the nation.
That's what I thought too. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous, especially when you're using Tor, and because again, so it's not actually transmitting funds, right, from a person to a person. No, it's doing peer-to-peer basically anonymous trading, shifting of balances from one peer to another peer. It's not actually a service saying, hey, I'll pay this guy for you. And there's no way, especially when you're running over Tor, to even see where the left is going versus the right, where the actual endpoints are from the middle of the transaction. You can't see that from within the middle. So very interesting answers. Final question, Christian, before we go to the demo. What is your response to a lot of people saying that funds can be easily lost in Lightning? I know in the beginning we've had just minutia little things lost, like pennies, like couch change, just for various different things like that via very different we have some things that were lost in some implementations and some that aren't. For example, the LND implementation has to date never lost anything on mainnet. So I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on a criticism of saying that Lightning just can have funds just lost really easily?
You mean from the implementation or from the protocol point of view?
I guess from both. Let's go with both.
Okay, so one of the common criticisms is, of course, that there is a certain time window in which one node can defraud its peer by basically publishing a node state, which also means that you actually have to be online for every once in a while to check that your peer is not trying to cheat you out of your money. And if he is, then you can retaliate by stealing his funds as well. Now people have been worried about this requirement to be online 24/7. It's not actually that you have to be online 24/7. It's just that you have to check in every once in a while, and how often that is actually configurable by you. So if I'm somebody that checks in so basically it just means that you, with your client on the phone, have to have network connectivity once a day, basically. And even if you don't have that ability to make sure that once every day you check in, you can actually delegate that to others as well. So from a protocol point of view, we're quite happy with that trade-off. Furthermore, the simple possibility for a cheating party to lose all of its funds serves as a deterrent to actually try to cheat. So the second point is as to implementations losing funds, and that's we have Rusty. The origin of this is basically that my colleague Rusty put out a tweet saying that he lost some funds while using Lightning on mainnet, and we wanted to have that sort of as a deterrent for people to be too eager to jump on mainnet. As a matter of fact, we still have all the ability to recover those funds. So I wouldn't say that we have actually lost these funds at all. We just don't have the tools yet to recover them. Working on them right now.
So very important then to distinguish. We have the protocol that we're talking about, and then the individual implementations. Now, of course, anything can go wrong with an individual implementation. I mean, that's just bugs and errors that can get fixed. But the protocol itself is designed in such a way that you can't lose funds, because if anybody tries to, for example, steal or manipulate the funds in a channel, you can just kind of steal the funds right back. Yeah. So
yes.
Go ahead, Christian.
So basically, what somebody could try is if we have a channel open and now you go away for a week and I don't see you anymore, then I could guess that you might not be checking. So I could try to basically go. So if in the last state you had 1 Bitcoin and I had 0, and at some previous time I had 0.5 and you had 0.5, then I could go and say okay, back then I had like 0.5 Bitcoins. I might try to actually commit to this previous state, and actually that would be stealing for half a Bitcoin from you, right? And so I could actually try to enforce that state on chain. And if you are and now your timeout basically starts, and if you notice that I'm trying to cheat you out of your money, then you can get along and say you don't have any money. Here's a proof that you don't own that money anymore, and you basically go to the blockchain court and settle your dispute. And since you have proof that this old state was replaced, we can be sure that you will actually get the funds in the end. And even worse, because I tried to cheat you out of your money, any balance that I had is not yours.
So at the protocol level, then the only way to actually lose funds then would be to not pay attention, would be to not be checking your state, would be to basically irresponsible software development. I mean, that seems to be the only way that you would lose funds. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So Francis has a question, and then if anybody else has anything after that, we'll go with you. But first, Francis, what is your question for Christian?
Yeah, my question is when you talk about looking at the channel to see if a prior state has been published, can that be done with an SPV wallet? Can that be done with a kind of Explorer, or is that something that you expect like users would need to have a full Bitcoin node or full Lightning node or a full node to do? So how easy essentially is it going to be to check, your channel state? And the other kind of comment I had is like, from my perspective, what's the risk in Lightning and losing funds is not necessarily cheating. Is your software accidentally cheating, or someone else's software let's say that when you're creating a Bitcoin transaction, there's like one crucial security step where you're signing the transaction. And then once it's broadcast, you've signed it. That part of it is the security intensive part. You broadcast that. But imagine your LN node, you've signed a change to the channel, and then accidentally it broadcasts a prior state. And then someone else thinks you're cheating, and they sweep you are cheating in a sense, you're accidentally cheating, and someone else sweeps your fund. So 2 questions essentially is like that. Can you lose funds with that? Would you expect like a bug that publishes accidentally an ulterior state cause the users to lose funds? And just like, how are users gonna watch this state channel? If that's a requirement for them losing money, I'm assuming it needs to be like kind of easy and very, very low cost.
Yeah. So in the end, watching a channel basically comes down to watching the funding transaction output. that created the channel in the first place. So every Bitcoin node, be it an SPV wallet or be it a, well, no, SPV wallets might not have that. Well, like, could watch. Okay, so basically, the only thing that you do is look at an output and wait for it to be spent. Now,
so like a block explorer, for example, I could subscribe to an address, an output, and if it moves, like just knowing that from a block explorer, my wallet would like be notified, oh, someone's moved funds. Yeah.
So it wouldn't actually be you. It would be your wallet watching the chain on your behalf and automatically reacting to this cheating attempt. Yeah. So SPV wallets are definitely a way to do it. Having a block explorer is a way to do it. Although I prefer you to run your own validating node, of course. There have been some advances into better security lightweight wallets. Laolu from Lightning Labs has done an excellent job at creating Neutrino, which is an alternative to the existing Bloom filter based SPV wallets. Neutrino allows us to efficiently tell whether an output has been spent or not. So there will definitely be lightweight clients that can run the Lightning protocol. We're just not there yet. We currently require a full node sitting right next to your Lightning node because it's just way easier to build on top of this instead of having to rebuild that functionality as well. So we'd like to have Lightning out in a reasonable time instead of trying to perfect it before we can gather the first experience. As to your second point is about accidentally broadcasting a previous state. That's absolutely a possibility. It's one of the things that we have to be very, very careful to guard against. And we're doing that by basically just delaying any kind of action that might result in an accidental release. For example, we do exchange signatures for these transactions whenever it's required, but we do not construct the transaction itself and do not sign our own transaction until the moment that we have to release it. So there is no that this sort of toxic information, as I'd like to call it, is not lying around your notebook and cannot be exfiltrated and sort of accidentally be released. There are a few scenarios where that might happen accidentally. In this case, we just prefer to break down completely and have the channel be shut instead of relying on that. One of these scenarios is basically that if you have a backup and then restore this backup, then you don't know, wait, did something else happen in the meantime, or am I up to date? So in this case, we'll just shut the channel because we don't want to have this risk of accidentally leaking this information. But very definitely cool question.
Awesome. Francis, did you have any follow-up? Nope.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions for Christian before we get started with the demo? Nope. All right, ladies and gentlemen, get your popcorn ready because we are about to do a live demo of beta software right here for everybody to watch. So before we get to that, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us so much so far, guys. Thank you for the over 1,000 live viewers. We hit 1,100 there at the live peak. Thank you so much, so everybody in the chat, and thank you so much, guys, to our panelists for hanging in there with us. We were definitely over budget here on time, but we definitely appreciate everybody hanging with us. We had a lot of information to cover here. So without further ado, Mr. Christian, I'm going to pass it on to you. You are on the big screen. Can you please share your screen and get on with the demo? Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah. I'm guessing you're seeing this.
Yep. We can see you. I can see me. I can see myself talking.
you can see yourself talking. That's good. Okay. So this is going to be anticlimactic, if anything, because it's actually quite, it's going to be quick and it's not going to be spectacular. So what we have here on the left is basically the Blockstream store that we've set up earlier this week with some really nice T-shirts and these stickers, which are a real keeper because we're only going to have them until we actually release the client software. And on the right side, we have a small demonstration wallet that I built because people were complaining about the cringeworthy nature of my terminal-based demos. So what we have here is basically I have a Bitcoin D node. I have this software which is called Kugelblitz, and then I have a Lightning node set up with its information. This is running in in Frankfurt. I'm sitting in Zurich, and the store is somewhere in San Francisco, I guess. And what we're going to do is basically I have some channels set up, so we don't lose any time doing that, because that's the slow part of this of the creation of the Lightning Network. To set up a channel, you actually need to have a transaction on chain confirmed. So what we're going to do now is basically I'm going to buy a sticker, and let's have a T-shirt. Why not? And since I'm a large guy, I will add the large T-shirt. So this, by the way, is running on WooCommerce. It's running the WooCommerce plugin that we've released earlier this week, and my cart now has $17 in it. I can go ahead and, yeah, that $5, it's flat for everybody. So I'm going to proceed to checkout, add some bogus information so that I don't actually get this shipped. And I'm going to proceed with the payment itself. Yes, where's the email? Oh, yeah. So what we have here now is we have the balance, which is $22, and it's 1.958 millibitcoin. What we have here is a payment request. It's a long string that is actually BEC32 encoded. And you'll notice that there is a timer for this invoice because the invoices have an expiration time. By default, that's 1 hour. And if you have a Lightning client, you can actually scan this QR code and pay with that. So I'll go over to my Lightning wallet, and I'll just copy and paste the payment request. The payment request will be resolved, and it will say that I'm paying way too many millisatoshis, but that's fine. I'm not going to do the conversion right now. And what we have is also the route that we're going to take. And you see that I'm directly connected to this node. And if my sacrifice to the demo gods goes right.
Hold on, don't click it yet. Just wait 1 second. Before you click it, I just want to explain to the people that what you did is you did copy and paste that payment request. But if you did have a Lightning wallet like Zap, for example, you could just QR code that in. Eventually, Lightning wallets will be on iOS and Android across all the space, right? So eventually that will be just as easy as paying with a hot wallet is now. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also have this this URI scheme. So if you have a Lightning wallet sitting on your notebook or your laptop or your computer, you'll also just be able to click this, and basically just your Lightning wallet will pop up and ask you whether you want to pay it.
So I'm checking out this payment amount, and millisatoshi are thousandths of a satoshi. Now I know that Lightning can actually send smaller than a satoshi, although once they hit the blockchain they'll be rounded. But that looks like the wrong value. It's too low by 1,000, isn't it? Isn't that the actually the amount of satoshi that are? Oh no, millibitcoin.
No.
That's right then. That's exactly right.
That's okay. Should be okay.
Yep, looks good. I think we're ready to pray to the programming gods and hit the button.
Yeah, keep your fingers crossed, and I hope it all goes well. 3, 2, 1, go. Yep. So as I said, this is extremely anticlimactic because nothing actually happens besides 2 screens updating. But as you can see now on the wallet side, we have a completed payment for the amount going to this to the shop, and it's completed. And on the left side, it has automatically refreshed, and now it shows me my confirmation of the payment, and hopefully it will get shipped to test at test. I'll probably have to tell them that this is going to somebody else. If you would like to have this, I'm giving this away. So anybody of you wants it?
Yeah, well, I want it.
I think everybody on this panel would want it, but yeah.
I thought that was awesome. It took about a quarter of a second.
Yeah, that was milliseconds. That was like 200 milliseconds, just like a standard web page refresh. And I just want to remind everybody again that this is on mainnet. This is live stuff that we're running. We're playing with real money here. And so very awesome, Christian. Thank you so much for that demo. We super appreciate it. You know, you say it's anticlimactic, but for me, man, that was amazing. That was better than going out to a movie, watching that. So very awesome. Thank you, Christian.
You see, for me, it's quite annoying that it actually took a quarter of a second. That's basically the refresh time of the browser. I don't have push updates in there yet. It would have been quicker if it had been. So
absolutely. That's awesome, man. It would be instant if you were like doing via APIs and stuff instead of waiting for the browser to actually refresh. If you were using Ajax, for example, and you would click it, it would just be like, bam.
Yeah, exactly. So these are actually payments at the same speed that we need to communicate between the two nodes, and this was actually across the Atlantic, so not bad.
Very awesome. Awesome demo, guys. Very successful demo. Very happy to see that the programming gods have shined down upon us. So we thank you for that. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I think we can end it here. We went a little bit over here, almost 2 hours, but we really, really, really appreciate you guys for hanging in. We appreciate the patience. We had a lot of discussion today. We had a lot of panelists, so it was going to probably go over a little bit anyway. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to the over 1,100 viewers we had. Thanks so much again to the programming gods for shining down upon us. Let us outro everybody and ask them where we can find more information about them. So first we'll go with Ansel. Ansel, where can we find out more information about you and what you do?
Bitcoinandmarkets.com, on Twitter, at Ansel Lindner. I do a podcast twice a week and talk about fundamentals like hash rate, OTC markets, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Highly recommend it. You guys, great podcast, bitcoinandmarkets.com. Francis.
Listening.
Yes. Francis, where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, I didn't have my lower third today. It didn't work. So you can definitely check me out on Twitter at @FrancisPouliot_, or check out my company, bylls.com, bills.com, or Cadillac.com.
Yep. And of course, guys, everybody remember that I always have the panelists' Twitter accounts and information in the video description, in the show description. So definitely check that out if you guys miss it here. Gabriel D. Vine, where can we find you, sir? Where can we find out more about you?
Right here. What's that?
Sorry, I said, where can we find out more about you?
Oh, yeah. You know a little bit about me. You know, right here on the World Crypto Network, I am quite often a panelist, and occasionally I am able to kick out an episode of my show, Future Rant. But on a daily basis, I will be tweeting from my bathtub at Gabriel Divine.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Gabriel apparently tweets most all of his tweets from the bathroom. So thank you for that information, Gabriel. Priceless information there. Ragnar, thank you so much for joining us, man. We really enjoyed your commentary on your very first appearance here on the World Crypto Network. We hope to have you back again. Where can we find out more about you, Ragnar?
At my website, which is just my last name .is. So LIFTHRASIR.is. Leaftracer.is.
Awesome. And of course, again, we got that Twitter handle in the show description. So guys, thanks again so much for joining us. We had an amazing time. My panelists donating their time with just great precision, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And we will be back, of course, here again next Sunday, every Sunday at 12 p.m. Pacific. So again, guys, until next time, Keep talking Bitcoin. We'll see you later.